In 1998, the NFL draft was set to change the future of football forever. The Indianapolis Colts had the first overall pick, and the debate was fierce. Would they take Ryan Leaf, the cannon-armed but volatile quarterback from Washington State, or Peyton Manning, the disciplined and polished field general from Tennessee? We all know what happened. The Colts chose Manning, and the rest is history. 2 Super Bowls, 5 MVPs, and one of the greatest careers in NFL history. But let's pause right there. What if things went differently? What if, in a twist of fate, the New York Jets had secured Peyton Manning instead? Imagine it. Broadway Peyton under the bright lights of New York City, leading Gang Green into a new era. Let's step into this alternate timeline. The year is 1998. The Jets are coming off a 9-7 season under Bill Parcells, and they have the 4th pick in the draft. But in this alternate history, they make an aggressive move. The Jets, desperate for a franchise quarterback, package multiple picks and a couple of players to trade up to the number 1 slot. The Colts, still intrigued by Ryan Leaf's potential, agree. And just like that, Peyton Manning becomes the face of the New York Jets. Immediately, the landscape of the NFL begins to shift. Peyton arrives in New York, the media capital of the world. The pressure is immense, but unlike many before him, he thrives under the spotlight. The combination of Manning's work ethic and Parcells' no-nonsense coaching creates a foundation that feels unshakable. Instead of struggling through a brutal rookie season with the Colts, where he threw a league-leading 28 interceptions, Peyton finds himself in a more stable environment. Curtis Martin, the all-pro running back, is there to carry the load. Keyshawn Johnson provides a true number 1 receiver. The Jets' defense, anchored by Mo Lewis, is stout. Peyton has the support that most rookie quarterbacks dream about. The 1998 Jets in our real timeline went 12-4 and reached the AFC Championship game with Vinny Testaverde under center. Now picture that same season with a young Peyton Manning leading the charge. Maybe they don't get all the way to 12 wins, but with his leadership and the roster around him, the Jets are still in the mix. Instead of being a playoff afterthought, they suddenly a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and Peyton Manning is instantly one of the biggest stars in sports. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Indianapolis Colts, without Peyton, choose Ryan Leaf. And as we know, Leaf's career was a disaster. His immaturity and lack of preparation doomed him, and without Manning to lead them into the 2000s, the Colts spiral. Marvin Harrison, who became Manning's legendary partner in crime, never blossoms into the same Hall of Fame receiver. Without Peyton, Tony Dungy never gets the chance to build a dynasty in Indianapolis. The Colts become a revolving door of quarterbacks, coaches, and losing seasons. Meanwhile, in New York, Peyton transforms the Jets' image. For decades, the Jets were seen as the little brother to the Giants, stuck in the shadow of Joe Namath's guarantee back in Super Bowl III. But with Manning, the Jets suddenly own the city. Imagine it, back-to-back playoff runs in the late 90s and early 2000s, with Peyton's pinpoint passing lighting up defenses at Giants Stadium. The Jets are no longer a punchline, they're a powerhouse. And because the Jets are now consistently competitive, it changes the balance of power in the AFC. Remember the early 2000s dynasty? The one led by a 6th-round pick named Tom Brady in New England? That might never happen the same way. In real life, Brady's rise was fueled by dominating the AFC East, where the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills weren't consistent threats. But in this alternate reality, Peyton Manning and the Jets are the team to beat. Every year, Brady versus Manning isn't just an AFC playoff rivalry. It's a division clash twice a season, on the biggest stage in football. Just imagine those battles. The Meadowlands in December. Brady on one sideline, Manning on the other. Belichick schemes against Peyton's surgical precision. It becomes the defining rivalry in NFL history, bigger than anything we actually saw. But let's pause again and think about Peyton himself. Would he have become the same quarterback in New York? The media pressure is brutal, the fan base is impatient, and the weight of carrying a franchise is heavier than anywhere else in sports. In Indianapolis, Peyton had patience, stability, and time to grow. In New York, he'd have had to deliver immediately. But that's where his personality matters. Peyton was built for that pressure. His preparation, his football IQ, his leadership, they all translate perfectly to the city that never sleeps. Instead of crumbling, he thrives. He becomes the face of not just the Jets but the NFL itself. By the early 2000s, Peyton Manning is a superstar in New York. The commercials, the endorsements, the magazine covers, all amplified by the media capital. The Jets become America's team, not the Cowboys. Broadway Peyton rewrites the script of NFL stardom. And what about championships? In our timeline, the Jets haven't won a Super Bowl since 1969. But with Manning, that drought doesn't last. By 2002 or 2003, the Jets are in the Super Bowl mix every year. Maybe they snag one against the Raiders in the early 2000s. Maybe they clash with the Rams' greatest show on turf. But one thing is certain, Peyton Manning brings rings to New York. And here's the wildest ripple effect. Without Peyton in Indianapolis, and with the Colts sinking, what happens to the NFL draft in 2012? The Colts in this alternate timeline might be so bad for so long that they're still picking number 1 that year. And instead of drafting Andrew Luck, maybe they go after another quarterback years earlier. The entire chain reaction of quarterbacks across the league is disrupted. But in the short term, the biggest change is this. Peyton Manning isn't remembered as the savior of Indianapolis. He's remembered as the man who brought glory to the New York Jets. The year is 2004. Peyton Manning is now in his 7th season as the Jets' starting quarterback, and the NFL looks completely different. The Colts never built their dynasty, the AFC East is no longer New England's playground, and the Jets are firmly cemented as one of the league's powerhouses. By this point, Manning is at the peak of his powers. His ability to read defenses before the snap is legendary. His chemistry with Keyshawn Johnson has already set records, and by now the Jets have surrounded him with even more talent. Chad Pennington in this reality never becomes the next guy, because Peyton is already the guy. The Jets draft aggressively, knowing they have their quarterback of the future. By 2004, Peyton is slinging passes to Laveranues Coles and Santana Moss, while Curtis Martin continues to anchor the running game. This is the Jets' golden age. Now, here's where the ripple effects really come to life. Remember how in our real timeline, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady clashed in the playoffs year after year? Here, that rivalry burns even hotter. Every season, the AFC East comes down to Jets versus Patriots. It's Peyton versus Brady, Parcells versus Belichick, New York versus Boston. The kind of rivalry that defines entire eras of sports. Yankees-Red Sox? Move over. Jets-Patriots becomes the rivalry of the 2000s, and the results are different. In reality, Brady's Patriots built a dynasty by taking advantage of a weak division, cruising into the playoffs with top seeds and home field advantage. But in this timeline, Peyton's Jets knock them down repeatedly. Brady still emerges as a legend, but he doesn't rack up 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. Instead, Peyton steals 1 or 2 of those titles. Let's imagine 2001. In our reality, the Patriots stunned the Rams in Super Bowl XXXX. But with Manning leading the Jets that year, New England doesn't even make it. The Jets, riding a balanced offense and a suffocating defense, take the AFC crown. And Peyton Manning, in just his 4th season, lifts the Lombardi Trophy under the lights of the Superdome. 1 Lombardi down. Fast forward to 2004. Instead of Brady cementing himself with 3 rings by then, the narrative is split. Peyton has 1 or 2, Brady maybe 1, and the debate begins earlier than in real life. Who's the real GOAT? Who owns the AFC East? Every week, every season, every playoff game feels like a heavyweight fight. And what about the Giants? The other New York team doesn't vanish, but they certainly don't hold the same place in the city's heart. In our reality, Eli Manning's trade to the Giants in 2004 shaped their franchise forever, leading to 2 Super Bowls. But in this timeline, imagine how different that looks. Eli, now living in the shadow of his big brother dominating the Jets, doesn't have the same freedom to define his own legacy. The city belongs to Peyton. The Giants are still respectable, but the headlines, the commercials, the talk radio debates, they're all about the Jets. Broadway Peyton becomes bigger than Broadway Joe. But here's the most fascinating ripple effect. The Jets, now a consistent contender, shift the very balance of power in the NFL. Teams build differently, coaches strategize differently, and legacies rewrite themselves. Bill Belichick, for example, might not be remembered as the greatest coach ever, Without 6 Super Bowls, maybe he's just a brilliant defensive mind who won a few big games. Tom Brady? He's still a legend, but not the legend. Without a dynasty, maybe he retires with 3 or 4 rings, not 7. The Brady-Manning debate isn't tilted toward New England. It is a neck-and-neck argument for decades. And what about Peyton himself? The New York spotlight takes his celebrity to heights we never saw in reality. In Indianapolis, he was beloved. But in New York, he's an icon. Endorsements, late-night talk shows, even political influence. Peyton Manning isn't just an athlete, he's a cultural figure. He becomes the most recognizable quarterback in NFL history, on par with Michael Jordan in basketball or Derek Jeter in baseball. By the late 2000s, the Jets have redefined themselves. Instead of one Super Bowl trophy from 1969 gathering dust, they've got multiple championships. The fan base, long tortured by years of disappointment, is rewarded with an era of glory. The same old Jets meme never exists. The Jets are winners. But there's another twist to consider. What happens when Peyton reaches the twilight of his career? In reality, neck surgeries forced him to miss the 2011 season, and the Colts moved on to draft Andrew Luck. But in this timeline, would the Jets have done the same? Unlikely. New York, with its massive market and desperate hunger to keep its star, probably sticks with Peyton as long as possible. Maybe he still undergoes the same surgeries, maybe he still misses a season, but the Jets don't part ways. Instead of Denver signing Manning in 2012, imagine Peyton's comeback happening in green and white. That Broncos Super Bowl in 2015? Maybe it's the Jets celebrating instead, and without Manning in Denver, think about all the other ripple effects. The Seahawks Super Bowl blowout doesn't happen the same way. The Broncos never get that late career title. The AFC picture is completely rewritten year after year because of one trade in 1998. And so, as we zoom out, the legacy of Peyton Manning looks radically different. He's still one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But his story is tied not to a small market franchise in the Midwest, but to the biggest stage in sports, New York City. His rings, his records, his rivalries, all defined by Broadway lights and Meadowlands winters. And the Jets themselves? They're not the lovable losers of NFL lore. They're champions. They're a dynasty. They're the team that changed football forever. So what if Peyton Manning had been drafted by the Jets? The answer is simple. The history of the NFL would look nothing like it does today. Brady's dynasty would shrink. The Colts would vanish from relevance. The Jets would finally escape the ghost of Namath's guarantee. And Peyton Manning? He'd go down not just as a legend, but as the man who gave the Jets what they'd been chasing for half a century: glory, dominance, and a permanent seat at the NFL's table of immortals.